Hello there. This is MD. Here with you on SaskiYano. Here we go again. We are in a new After Effects tutorial. In this tutorial, you're gonna be putting all the skills you've learned so far to the test. And you're gonna build yourself a lower third. From scratch. If you want to follow along with this comp, make sure open up the lower third file. I will include the pre-built lower third. If you want to open it up and poke around in there, go ahead. But I highly encourage you to follow along and build it with me. Alright. Let's take a look at what you're going to be creating. Alright. So, it's a real basic lower third. Actually built this into parts. And hopefully that'll make sense. By the end of this tutorial, I have a lower third left half. And this is where you put the name. And then I have a lower third right. It's not really a half. But this is where you put the title of the person. So, let's start building this. Start. I'm gonna create a new composition. And I want to start with 1200 by 145. I'm gonna use 23.976 frames a second. That is a preset, which can just select right there. I'm gonna make it 6 seconds long. And this is going to be the right side. So I am gonna name this lower third, right, and I'm gonna start by making that background element for my text to sit on. So I'm gonna grab the rectangle tool. I'm gonna double click on it, and that'll create a rectangle. That is the same size as my comp. Now, I don't want the exact same size. So, I'm going to drill down here in the rectangle path. And I am gonna click constrain proportions. I'm gonna change the Y dimension to 125 pixels. Also gonna rename this. I will press enter here. And I will rename this layer background rec. If you click away and then click back on this layer, you'll see the anchor point for this layer. I'm gonna press Y on the keyboard to grab the anchor point tool. I'm gonna move the anchor point and snap it to the left side here. If you don't have snapping turned on, you can hold down Ctrl while you're moving the anchor points to temporarily enable snapping, but you want to snap it right here to this side. Alright. I'm gonna create some text here. So this is going to be my title. And this is going to be left aligned. And I want to align this in the middle. And I actually want to move the anchor point on this layer as well. So I am gonna press Y. I'm gonna move the anchor point right here to the center. Now, if you ever find that it's snapping in a weird way, just solo the layer. And that should help to snap the anchor point right where you need to. Alright. Gonna switch back to the selection tool here. And just align in a little bit more to the left. And I'm also going to trim up my rectangle here. No, I like to build these lower thirds in such a way that I can reuse them. So, I intentionally make them a little bit longer than I need for, let's say, one title. Which is why I made this come 1200 pixels wide. So, to resize my rectangle here, I'm not going to go into the rectangle path. I'm gonna press S to bring up the scale. And I'm just gonna adjust the scale. Which is why I moved at the anchor point over to this left side here. So I'm gonna pull the scale in and make this just a little bit bigger than my text. Maybe just to hear more. Perfect. That looks great. I also had a little bit of movement in the previous lower third example that you saw. That was done with another little rectangles, so I'll grab the rectangle tool here. You just make a little rectangle. Doesn't matter what size. Because I'm going to change it. Right here. I will dive down into the rectangle path. And uncheck constrain proportions. And I'm gonna change the height to 10 pixels. And then I jump back up to the fill color and change that to white. Then I'll grab the selection tool here. And I'm actually just gonna click away. And then jump back to my shape here. It looks like the anchor point for the layer was put right in the center of the comp. So if you want to move that over to the center of your layer, the keyboard shortcut is Ctrl, Alt, Home, or you can just grab the anchor point tool and do that manually. But I grab the anchor point tool because I actually want to snap the anchor point to the bottom left. I'll switch back to the selection tool. Actually, for this I think I want to snapped to the upper left hand corner. Switch back to the selection tool. I want to align this just to the bottom of this layer, and depending on where you click to move this to align. Like if I click more to the center, it's going to want to snap to the center. But if I click and move this more towards one edge, that's where it's going to want to snap to. I want to align this layer right to the edge of my comp. Someone to come over here to the align panel and click the align left button. And I'm gonna rename this layer Lil Rec. Press P on the keyboard. Bring up position. When I drop a position keyframe, move down to the end. And just move it over just a little bit. The next thing that I want to do is create the mats that are going to reveal all of these elements. To do that, I'm gonna use shape layers again. So, without any layer selected, I'm gonna come up here and double click the rectangle tool, which will create a nice rectangle that covers up everything. And that's totally fine. When I click down here in the timeline, press enter and then rename this mat 001. Press Y on the keyboard. Grab the anchor point tool and snap this to the left side. I am gonna press S on link these and then scale this so that it just covers up my background box. I'm gonna go to 1 second, drop a keyframe, come back to the beginning and set the X scale to 0. So now I get this going from 0 scale all the way up to 100. But I don't like the way that those linear keyframes look. So I am gonna select them. Press F9 on the keyboard. Jump into the graph editor. Select the last keyframe here. Grab the handle. Hold shift. And pull up all the way to the left. And you can click this button if you want to fit all graph to view. That may aid you in making these adjustments. I am gonna select graph the first keyframe. Grab the handle while holding shift and pull all the way to the left. Now I will create that nice super fast curve. I think that'll look really nice. Very cool. In fact, I think it a little bit better. With motion blur, I'm gonna press F4. Switch over to the layer switch pane. Enable motion blur for this. Then I am gonna pull this down above the background rectangle. Now I'm gonna need a mat for each one of my elements here. So to keep track of these visually, I'm just gonna change the color by clicking on the square to the left of the layer number. I'm gonna change it to orange. Alright. So that's my first mat. And I am gonna press F4 on the keyboard again and change my background rectangle to alpha mat. And that will be the first little mat there. That's running the background mat. That looks fantastic. I am going to press U on the keyboard to bring up those keyframes. I like the animation in, but I'm gonna go down here to 5 seconds. Drop another scale keyframe. Then go to the end and change the X scale to 0. And this will be the animation out. I don't really like that motion. So, just gonna ground these keyframes. Press F9 to ease them. That will give me a good starting shape. Okay. I am gonna zoom over here. And then just make a little adjustment to this curve here. Something like that should be fine. Super. I'm gonna take my mat 01. I'm gonna press Ctrl D on the keyboard to duplicate it. And this layer is going to sit above my text layer. So now, if I set my text layer to alpha matte, that's going to be using the same matte. Now, I don't like that they go at the same time. So I'm going to select my matte 2 layer. Press U on the keyboard. I'm gonna go to frame 3. Select my first 2 keyframes. And just pull those over. So that this is delayed by 3 frames. I also want my text to roll away first. So I am gonna do the same thing here. By moving my keyframe 3 frames to the left. By pressing page up 3 times. Select my ending keyframes here. And pull those over. I like to hold shift when I move keyframes around. Because that helps snap it to the CTI. So now, my text will just come on just a little later. And it will leave just ahead of the box. Perfect. Finally, I'm gonna go down here to the mat number 1. I'm gonna duplicate it. When I press S and then I'm going to get rid of all of the keyframes. By pressing the keyframe toggle here. Because what I want to do is, I want to link the scale to the scale of my mat 01 layer. And that way if I make any changes to the scale there, it'll update on this layer. And I don't have to worry about it. I'm just gonna press Alt and then click the stopwatch. Then I am gonna grab this pick whip right here and pick whip the scale. Just like that. And then click away. And that's it. It's that simple. I'll grab my mat 3 layer above my little rec. Change my little rec to alpha matte. And that's it. And this side is done. Coming up in the next tutorial, we're going to build the left side of this lower third. So check that out. Finally, we are done for today. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave your comment down below in the comments section. Also, if you want to learn more, take a look at our first channel, Everything PS. See you next time. Bye.